Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my most humble and reverential salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. I offer this beautiful journey at the lotus feet and welcome you all to join me for this evening's offering and session. So let us begin this evening with our prayer, and I request all of you to please join me on that. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Om Shri Sai Ram. As I keep repeating this sentence every time we go into this suffering, that discussing Bhagavad Gita, Ram Gita, or Gita per se is certainly not an easy task. But I am always reminded that Bhagavan says, Mukham karoti vachalam. So precisely that is what is happening here. It's His grace and pure grace that whatever little exposure we got from Bhagavan has allowed us or given us this confidence to share our journey with all of us. So with that humble submission, we would continue this offering, and hence I would request people to join in and share their views. As we progress further, we are bound to see some beautiful, somewhat complicated concepts and how easily they've been presented in front of us. And we are also watching how Bhagwan makes it relevant and easier for us in this context of today's time. Until yesterday, last week, we had the journey going when Bhagwan Ram gave us this beautiful concept of Atman, Paramatma, and then he dealt with the whole journey of the importance of realizing it, importance of knowing who we are, and then he looked into various obstructions on the way. He has taken us through a very beautiful journey in which he has explained the importance of karma. And we reached a spot wherein he has stressed that nobody can escape the obligation of karma. And for self-realization, we need karma, hence we need the body. And that is the importance of the human form. And this human form has only one purpose: to realize the divinity. So it's a chain cycle, it's a clock which keeps going, that we have to realize who we are. For that, we realize we need the body. Body is action, so we need to conduct. So there's a continuous flow of action to realize oneself. Until we get established in that supreme consciousness and realization, this chain would continue. So obviously, the next, and we have a very beautiful, I would say, an anchor who is kind of interviewing the Lord himself, Bhagwan Sri Hanuman, who is representing us mortals and questioning Lord in a very sequential manner. so that we can understand and hopefully practice to achieve the goal. So, when Bhagwan Ram explained the importance of karma, he very beautifully identifies that each time we are bound by the effect of karma gives birth to next karma, because I have this body based on my sanchit karmas, and that sanchit karma makes me what I have, the environment, and the environment will again force me to act, and my actions will further generate the effect of karma. So this cycle is going to continue. So the beautiful thing is, next Lord Hanuman poses a very beautiful question, and this is what I would like we have to share this and see. He says, Lord, pray, explain the types of karma and its impact, and then can they be negated or destroyed? So the beauty of the whole thing is that, okay, the cycle of karma leads to realization, but karma also leads to further effect, which leads to a next birth, and then the cycle continues. So can I be negated? Can it be negated, destroyed, so that we don't get into the cycle and we are out of it? But the beauty of asking is, at the junction when we have discussed about samadhi, about the stage of Jivan Muktas. So we have realized that there are different kinds of actions. Some people have found Jivan Mukti, some people are working on Jivan Mukti and Videhi Mukti. So people who are engaging in activities, in such activities, are they exempted from the law of karma? So this is where Hanuman has questioned Ram. And Ram starts by saying that perfect knowledge is impossible till Sanchit karma remains unexhausted. Now, I would like we have to keep this in mind as we move forward, because this is a very important junction wherein the Lord has explained in a very sequential way, but human mind is very smart in a way that we think we are smart and we try to find loopholes in the version of Bhagwan. So I would take a minute here to pause and go through the different kinds of karmas, which has already been discussed. And I'm sure all of us know it, but it's always good to have a kind of refresher course. So Bhagwan Ram has given this, and even Gitas, any Gitas have given, even the Upanishads have given it. So we have, broadly speaking, three types of karmas, and they are Sanchit karma, Agami, and Prarabdha. Sanchit is the accumulation wherein the whole, for all the lives of journey of the soul, the spirit, which goes through the different stages of journey, in which I could be an insect and a fly or a bird or an animal or whatever, that all the birth's imprints and the causal effect of this karma actions gets accumulated, and they are called sanchit karma. Sanchit in Sanskrit means collection. And then out of those sanchit karmas, there are some karmas which have sprouted. When we say they have matured, some karmas are subtle, they have not yet matured. Some karmas, like it's like you throw a seed and some grow faster than another. Like a human body may take a year to walk, but a cow's calf may take few minutes or an hour to walk. So it's a seedal effect. It is that effect which can germinate at a different time. So whatever has germinated germinated and it has become it has taken a shape. That is called prarabdha. That prarabdha gives us the human form or any form for that matter. Because now that prarabdha has to be experienced. Good, bad, ugly, wonderful, all that emotions, that experiences will come in the prarabdha. So prarabdha are the karmas which have been fructified. Now there are some which are not yet done. So that portion of the karma which have been initiated but not fructified, and the present karmas which I am enacting now, which I am engaging myself into today and in this life, they also get accumulated for the future, and they are called agami karma. Agami, one which is going to come. So we have sanchit, accumulated, we have prarabdha, fructified, and we have agami, which is going to come. So these are three types of karmas. And as we have seen before, Bhagwan Ram has very clearly explained that nobody can escape these karma effect, point number one. Second, you cannot negate good karma with bad karmas or bad karmas with good karmas. I cannot say I have done something bad, so for that I'll do 10 good activities and it should negate. No. The good karmas will give me good effect, bad karmas will give me bad effect. But whether good or bad, they both have intentional, motive, and because of that intent, there is a cause and effect, and because of which there is cycle continuing. So how do you break that sequence of event is the catch. So Bhagwan Ram has also explained that once you experience Jivan Mukta, then your Sanchit, which is your accumulated, and your Agami, the futuristic, both are destroyed. So this is what Bhagwan Ram has explained in our previous chapters, that Jivan Mukta stage, you have reached a spot wherein your Sanchit and Agami lose their impact, they are destroyed, but your Prarabdha, the present one, continues. And this body, because it has already been fructified, so one has to go through the experiences of your Prarabdha. But the beauty is, because you have Jivan Mukta stage achieved, which means your body consciousness is under control. So the beauty is that even though you feel the experience of suffering, but you won't suffer. You may experience like success, but you won't have any kind of extra feeling of joy or excitement. You will be always in that equilibrium. So the fluctuations of karmic effects do not impact the Jivan Mukta. So that is where Ram had stopped, and Hanuman poses this question to me. And why he is posing it? He's saying that, okay, can now look at the beauty of the questioning style and of course the answers. He says that means, hey Ram, is it okay then if somebody who has committed some different kind of karmas and now he got a realization that he must pursue good deeds. So is it okay if he engages himself completely into adhyatmic or a spiritual pursuit and tries to work towards self-realization? So will that take care of, and if he hits on the self-realization, will that take care of his Sanchit and Agami? So is there a shortcut? Can we leave everything behind us? Okay, done. I have done my mistake, so it's okay, but now I'm going to focus on God, and with that, I'm going to get Jivan Mukti, and Jivan Mukti will automatically take care of my Sanchit and Prarabdha, sorry, Sanchit and Agami. Hence, I won't have to experience, it'll be exhausted. Is that okay? Understanding. And what are the effects? Now, second part of the question is that will come later on. So, okay, let us stop it here. So, can they be negated and destroyed? And this is where Ram starts with this sentence: perfect knowledge is impossible. What is perfect knowledge? Perfect knowledge is the real self-realization, or what he's calling as, a Jivan Mukti stage. Jivan Mukta is when you realize yourself. There he puts it, and we have ended that chapter with that episode with that statement. But the beauty is that subtlety of understanding comes as we are going, and we need a people like, an anchor like Sri Hanuman, who can literally penetrate through these nuances and ask the right question. So when the Lord said that, and this question arose, that can that be negated? And that is where he says, look, now you are acting smart. So now you're acting in these circumstances when we are talking about karma from the perspective of karma. So it is important that you have to realize that karmic bondages can never ever be negated or destroyed or avoided without experiencing them. So you cannot say that I will, if I pursue my Atmagyan, my Sanchit karma should be gone and it won't impact me now. So that is the catch which Ram catches Hanuman and says, Hanuman, don't be too smart. Under that circumstances, what you are trying to imply, you have to realize that you cannot get complete self-perfect knowledge unless you have experienced and exhausted your Sanchit karma. So it is not that you can pursue spirituality as an escape route. You can pursue spirituality as a last resort, or as, as when I have nothing else to do, let me look for God. Spirituality is not a path for weak. It is not a path for escapist. It's a very, very dynamic, it is a very, what should I say, is the most exciting and adventurous line to live. So in spirituality, you cannot, avoid your karmic influences. So spirituality gives you the strength to face those and at the same time pursue your goals. But the beauty is then Lord will facilitate the sequence, the event, and pursue. But you cannot think that I can get over my past karmas just by focusing on Atman. So that would be something different. So that is where Prabhu Ram has explained that in a very beautiful manner, that Hanuman, please don't take it in that sense, wherein you realize that you can avoid or neglect your karma and its effect by now pretending to be spiritual, by now pretending to be something, focusing on the Atmagyan. And then he has to explain further, and that is another beautiful thing, which Bhagwan now takes him to the next journey when he says, Lord, how do I look at this Sanchit karma, and because I'm suffering, right? So how do I handle this part? And that is where he starts to explain to him about there are different types of gunas, and those gunas need to be understood. So let me share with you the slide and then we can take it from there, because I think the visuals help me also, and it will help because that's how I learn. So I create every time when I get a concept, I like to create it in a kind of pictorial way, so it makes sense to me. So he has given us sattva, rajas, and tamas. We know about this, right? Now there is a very beautiful, the way it has been explained. I would like to uh, share this part, and that is a very interesting way he has tried to explain that here. Okay, I think my brothers have joined, so let me invite my brother Raju. Sai Ram, Raju.
Sai Ram Gita. Sorry, I got delayed because of the
Okay, I
traffic.
was okay. I was just talking about that the types of karmas, sanchit, prarabdha, and agami karma. And let me show you the slide because we were discussing about how this question was asked by Sri Hanuman, and how Bhagavan Ram said you cannot escape your karmic effect. You have to go through the experiences of it. So it is a kind of a catch 22, whether you get Atmagyan and Jivan Mukti and negate your karma, or you negate your karma and you get Jivan Mukti. So it is both happening at the same time. So that's what I was sharing. So before I move forward to the different steps, so would like to jump in and say something on this topic.
Yes, brother. In fact, as Swami gives a beautiful explanation in one of the discourses, he talks uh, about a hunter hunting the tiger. He says, imagine a hunter is hunting the tiger and he has shot the arrow. Now the tiger is in his sight. It is the arrow has left the bow. It is darting towards the tiger. It is moving towards the tiger, and that's when the hunter has a realization of the self. He realizes that everything is one. So
Okay.
and so Swami beautifully explains in that story that he says, now because the hunter has a realization, now the sin of it may not accrue to him, and all that he had to suffer uh, will not uh, he will not be suffering because he gives a very different rationale. But he says, since the arrow has left the bow, the arrow has to hit the tiger, and the consequences of that action will have to be borne by the uh, hunter. The act has become so the act has emerged before he realized himself. So he says that that act of the bow and the arrow has left the bow, that is called the prarabdha, which none can ever allow you to escape from it. Nothing, do come what may, you can never escape it. But there is some leeway for prarabdha, for sanchita and agami to escape. Sanchita is all the backlog that you have. So the hunter has realized that he is one with the universal self, and there is nothing else but himself in this universe. So all the sanchita, that is all the past backlog, has vanished. The agami, because he is in that supreme state, the agami, all the things, the karma that will manifest from him will never accumulate as karmas, but instead they will be only directional, as exemplary actions to the entire humanity. So that is I thought that is one nice example that we can talk about.
Very good. Because it's a very beautiful clarification that you cannot escape it. That's what I was trying to reinforce there, that you know we cannot escape. But the catch 22 is when you get realization, Sanchita and Agami disappears. But it is not that one thing is happening after one thing. It is like
Yeah,
together they are happening.
together
So,
they are.
so one cannot escape that. And that is what Lord Hanuman was trying to get it out of Ram for our benefit. That when you said that when you get Jivan Mukti, your Agami and Sanchita are destroyed, so can it be a shortcut? But it is
Yes.
not. It is. It's the way of saying that the impact is gone. But again, the beauty was that prarabdha has to be suffered.
Has to be suffered,
So even
yes.
a Jivan Mukta has to live through the phase of his prarabdha, and the body has to go through this. And only when the time of prarabdha exhaustion happens, then he leaves the body and goes. So that is another beautiful thing which we have seen in many saints and seers also, how they live in that phase when they have almost departed, but they continue to live for the benefit of people. And there also there is a stage of one who lives for benefit of others and one who just lives because he has to exhaust his prarabdha.
Yeah.
So it's mind-boggling to see how many variations are coming out even in Jivan Mukta state. So
Yes,
some
brother.
Jivan Muktas live for everybody, some Jivan Muktas live because they have to live. And they are too engrossed with the Supreme and they don't, but they are either ways Jivan Muktas. But the
Yes.
beauty, again, the second beauty is that you cannot, there's not an end of it. Then you have Vaidehi Mukti. So a Jivan Mukta, and I forgot, should have mentioned that, is that he explains that in subtle form, there is a connect with the body in Jivan Mukta. So because at the mind stage, Jivan Mukta is still connected with the form. Body consciousness is still there.
Yes.
So they are consciously denying their body. They're consciously away from the body. So it's like saying that my body is suffering, I am not suffering. I am not the body, I am different. So this I am not the body is itself shows that there is a some connect with the body.
Yes.
So our body is suffering, I am not suffering. That means I am still connected with the body. And even, and Ram explains that and also very beautifully that even in the Sushupti stage of deep sleep, this connect is alive. And hence, that sleep drama, in that also he explains that even in sleep, you are bound by your karmic effects. So you cannot
So,
escape karma even in deep sleep. So
yes,
that
brother.
is, yeah,
Sorry. So just to add, I mean, it's just a drawing a parallel from what Lord Rama said and what Swami had done to many of our students and also devotees. Swami very beautifully explains that prarabdha has to be suffered. I mean, it has to one has to undergo prarabdha, come what may. But he says it is only God's grace which allows you to escape prarabdha. And he quotes in one of the discourse. I was of the opinion that yes, he will wipe away the prarabdha. But later I kept coming across instances where Swami says this body has suffered because I have taken over someone else's suffering. Or it essentially shows that he is not wiping away. Then in the discourse, when I read carefully, and Telugu, he explains that he is quoting the story of Markandeya. Markandeya Prarabdha is to die at the age of 16. Markandeya has appeared. Markandeya is holding the lingam. Yama has appeared. Now the noose is thrown around Markandeya, and it fell. All of us know that it also fell around the lingam. Immediately Shiva appears. Then Swami adds a line. He could have said that, and thus Shiva killed Yama because he dared to put a noose around Shiva. But what Swami says, he doesn't say that. He says Shiva has shifted the death of Markandeya to Yama, and he has shifted the immortality of Yama to Markandeya. So he is not negating the karma. He says the karma has to happen, but someone else will suffer. So that is where he explains that is how God's grace works. So as Ramachandra said, the sleep state, the dream state, or the sushupti state are also fields of experiencing karma. Many of there is that famous drama. In fact, we had planned to do it, and I had told this to Swami, and Swami laughed. Where it is a sannyas, a devotee has a warning uh, from. I'm just cutting the entire story short. From a sadhu saying that in next 7 days you're going to have a major accident. Now he goes across. He goes to his friends, goes to his relatives, goes to bank, goes to doctors. The prophecy that was given to him was after 7 days, you will exactly on the seventh day from today, you will break your two thighs, and you'll not be able to walk for the rest of your life. And he's stuck. He does not know what to do. He goes to his employees. He says, might happen to me. They say, don't worry, sir, we'll get you platinum legs if something happens. And says, he begs, saying that, make sure that the accident doesn't happen. He says that we cannot guarantee. He goes to the doctor. Doctor says, don't worry, I will operate you so well. He says, ensure that the thing doesn't happen, accident doesn't happen. Doctor says that I cannot, because it's not in my hands. Who knows, you might, he says, I'll lock myself up in a room. He says, who knows, you might slip and fall. Who knows, the roof might collapse. So all the scenarios that come to his mind, and he's lost. He realized that there is no way to escape. So fifth day he finally ends up doing, because he has tried every means. He goes to his banker, he goes to his lawyer, he goes to his doctor. Nobody assures him escape from this. So finally, the fifth day, he is lost, and then he meets a sadhu. He says, "Take up, come with me and serve the needy." The sadhu is serving the needy people, so he also joins and serves. And then that night, sadhu, yeah, this Maharaj is lost in singing the glory of God's name. So, and he is also sitting with, because there's nothing else he can do. He's sitting with him and is singing and singing the entire night. They sang. So the fifth night to sixth night is almost like 12 to 14 hours. They were lost in the seva and the singing, and he falls asleep. Asleep, he enters the seventh. His body and his consciousness enters the seventh day, and then he wakes up shocked. He's shouting, and everybody comes. All the sadhus, disciples come, say, "What happened? Why are you shouting so much?" He says, "Oh, you know what?" He says, "Oh my God, I am so much pain, so much suffering." They're asking, "What happened? What happened? Why are you shouting?" Then he realizes, he comes back to his senses. He looks at his thighs, and the Maharaj is smiling and he says, "See, God has protected you." He falls at Maharaj's feet and says, "Maharaj, uh, then I'm so grateful." He says, "No, it is your own karma. You explain to all the devotees what happened." He says, he had a dream in which he was actually crossing the road, and a massive truck has lost control, and it goes over his thighs in the dream, and both his thighs are cut off. And he wakes up and he realizes that it was a dream. His prophecy of losing the two legs was moved away from the waking state to dream state. The prarabdha was experienced, but
to
just that it
dream
was
state.
experienced. So Swami beautifully, in fact, he laughed and he said, that is why you should do Namasmarana and bhajans and seva, so that the Rakshinchuchundute, Akila Manula Kananda Managuchi Rakshinchuchundute, this is the protection that the Lord offers through these two. I thought I should just share this when the
Actually,
topic of.
we have many examples wherein Bhagwan has intervened in dreams, dream state, and other ways, and cured people and
Yes.
exhausted their karma. And it's very interesting that how he does that. And I think only divine people can intervene like that. And then I think that is what the power of grace is. It's beautiful. Okay, here we have another dimension which I was skipping actually, but it's interesting to point out here. He says, Hanuman poses this question, I believe, and Bhagwan Ram says, they are, he says, Jivan Mukta in his state is still acting. He's still performing activities. Even though he's not attached, but he's performing activities. So, hey Ram, there are certain activities which may be considered as good, and some activities may be considered as bad by people or not so good. What happens to that effect? Because he's Jivan Mukta. So it doesn't come
Yeah.
back to him, right? So what happens to him? And that is where interestingly Ram has given an answer. So Raju, you want to start there?
Yes, but that is what
It's
I
very
was actually in the it's that is the context which I was talking about the Markandeya story. The good things that are done by Jivan Mukta, they go to his friends and families, while the bad, or rather people who see the actions of Jivan Mukta as bad, it comes back to them, or rather, as Rama says beautifully, to the enemies of Jivan Mukta. It just turns back and hits them back. So
I
Jivan
think
Mukta is
we should define the friends and the foes of Jivan Mukta first. Because
okay.
Jivan Mukta per se has got no friends or enemies. So how has he defined? So please go with that first.
So he talks about how those who see the divinity in him, or those who see that he is completely unattached and he is divine, that he is considered as a friend, and
Friend.
those who see evil in his actions, they are considered as the enemies.
So those who doubt him or have
Yeah.
confusion, they are considered to be enemies. Those who say ill about them, they are enemies. And those who trust him, believe in him, follow him, they are treated as friends. So any activity of Jivan Mukta doesn't affect him, but the Jivan Mukta, one who considers good, he gets the good of Jivan Mukta, and one who considers him as enemy gets the negative of Jivan Mukta. So that is how the Jivan Mukta's actions are getting, distributed. I find it very intriguing. That's why Bhagwan used to always point out. He said, even if you don't appreciate a saint, but remember, anybody who is God oriented, godly people, never speak ill of them because
Yes.
you don't know who they are, where they are. So even if you don't have compatibility, you don't have, affinity, you never ever speak ill or think evil about them. It'll harm you. And imagine thinking about them and then thinking or saying something bad about the avatar himself. Can you imagine that? Like, I don't think anybody can save you then. So it is that kind of impact which it creates. Eh?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. There is another thing which I would like to read. It's a very beautiful thing. The bad effects of naimitya karmas that are performed with desire and without the idea of setting an example to the people and never performed by the knower of self, not being worked out by himself, not destroyed by the knowledge, go to his enemies.
Oh, beautiful.
See, it's like that, desire setting an example. So I'm just doing it because I have to do it. A Jivan Mukta, it goes to his enemies. And those good and bad effects are not included in those of Sanchit, nor are they included in those of Prarabdha or Agami. The good and bad karmas are performed by Paroksh Jnanis, go to their friends, enemies and take hold of them halfway. So it's a very beautifully combined words which he has placed it that, how people must be careful about how they respond or react to people of divine nature or godly people. Okay, I would like
Absolutely.
to read one more paragraph and I would like your comment on that. So he says, when there is an obstruction to knowledge, there is the need for karma. So which means when you have not achieved the perfect knowledge, you have to work, right? The knower of self keeps the Gyanendriyas engaged in performing karmas based on ashram vyavasthas.
Yes,
If
Prabhuji.
there is the least desire on the part of the knower for the enjoyment of prarabdha, then understand that the performance of rites pertaining to one's own order of life becomes necessary. So, which means a slight desire to enjoy the prarabdha.
Wow,
That
good.
means you have to know your ashram vyavastha. And in last session, we did, discuss about the karmas based on the ashram vyavasthas. So, Raju, what do you think about this? Is like sometimes you get scared also that how much intertwined these karmic effects are, and we
Yes,
have
Prabhuji.
to.
Exactly. And I think as Lord Ramachandra is so compassionate in revealing these secrets to, and I think we should be extremely grateful to Hanuman for being a medium for Rama to give such beautiful insights. He says, even if there is a, like the sentence is so beautiful that he says, even if there's a trace of desire for enjoying the prarabdha karma, forget desire, a trace of desire, then also you are bound by karmic effects.
You're bound by the karmic effects, and you have to understand that which karma, which ashrama you are. Brother Srinivas has written, he has reminded actually, I wanted to avoid that aspect. But he said when Bhagwan had a fracture, yes, brother, you're right. And, people had like been bothering Bhagwan by asking that Swami, you must be having a lot of pain. Because as we know, Bhagwan never, initially never allowed people to operate upon him. Only in the end, he just let it go. So he had many fractures in his life actually. Swami had many fractures. So in one of the fractures, yes, I remember this. It happened in 80s when we were also there, and yes, Swami had said that yes, there is a huge pain because hip bone was fractured, and he was just lying there, and then he sat down, and then he even stood and gave discourse for 2 hours. So he had made that statement that pain is there, but no suffering. In fact, at the end also he told when we had asked him, so Swami said, "I have no pain," and then we had to tell him that yes, Swami, we know you have no pain, but you are discomforted. So yes, but see, in an avataric state also, because he's using the body, so there is a connect with the body, and that is what Ram also has been saying. Am I right, Raju?
Yes, brother,
Right?
exactly. In fact, Swami told me the same statement in Bhajanol, where he said, Noppi undi kan bada ledra. When you had asked Swami that, Swami, your legs have swollen. It is after a similar fracture in 2005. This was. He said, Noppi, same, the same statement. Swami beautifully says the body has to, that Noppi is for the body, the pain is for the body.
Body has to go through. Body has to go through, but I am fine. I remember initially also we had that time, when people had scratched his, people, ladies especially used to pull his, like touch his feet, and there was some kind of a scratch, and that had turned into wound, and then wound became a septic to such an extent that it started oozing, and he never showed it. So one day when he was limping, boys caught him, and then they forced him to show, and they noticed a septic. A doctor was called, and I remember Dr. Alreja explained sharing this thing that we told Swami that Swami we need to put an anesthesia local at least. Swami said, Rudra, no need. He called him the next morning and he put his foot on a stool and he said, operate. And he picked up a newspaper next lying somewhere, and then he started reading the newspaper, it seems, and talking. And the doctors had to cut that piece, wound out. And when they finished cutting and they applied that ointment and they were about to put a bandage, Bhagwan pulled the leg feet off and he says, no, don't do that. So he says, Swami, you are walking on the sand, it will get, more infected. Bhagwan said, no, I'll take care of it. But if you put bandage, then devotees will see from far, and if they notice bandage on my feet, it will hurt them. So I can't afford to put bandage. So even in bandage, he had a thought of devotees first. So this is the way, that's why I read that line when he says that when an activity is done, even by Jivan Muktas, with desire to help others. See, that is the
Absolutely.
beauty of an avatar, then the friends get the benefit. So even that doesn't come to him. So he said that don't put bandage because devotees will see and they will get hurt. So I will manage. I'll maintain my distance and I'll take care of few days like that. And he did that. So there was no bandage on Bhagwan. And even later on also, if you would have seen his left feet, there was a big mark. That
Ah,
mark
yes.
is actually of that cutting and operation.
My
There's a
God.
mark. It's a So thank you, Brother Srinivas, for sharing and reminding this. But the fact is, these are stories which bring a different emotion. So I was trying to avoid that, but I think Bhagwan wanted it to come out. So thank you, Brother Srinivas, for bringing it up. Okay, so let's continue further. So from here, we go into the
And brother,
next
just
session.
yeah,
Yeah, please.
yeah, sorry. Just the one nice anecdote of Swami, which Swami had Chinakatha, which Swami had shared. It's hilarious one. Uh, I think he had shared quite some time ago, early 60s. It talks about this line is very interesting. He says even if there is a at least a trace of desire, at least desire in the part of the knower for the enjoyment of prarabdha, even a trace, he has to act according to the state of his varna vyavastha, his ashram vyavastha. So not varna, ashram vyavastha. So and sannyasi
Yeah,
was performing. Uh, he was doing tapas, penance in the cold Himalayas. So he used to sit on those stones and he would meditate. And this sannyasis, right? So no clothes, almost bare bodied, naked. So the trace of desire, some that word that Rama uses is so important. So he felt that his buttocks were no, they're getting quite cold because it's all cold region and it's winter, so it's getting little colder. So he wanted some warmth for his buttocks and the thighs, and at least for the private parts. So he went around. He found one garment and he wrapped it, he wrapped around himself and sat for the tapas for meditation. And next day he felt little warm, it's good. Next day, so that night he folded it and kept it, and he slept. Next morning when he got up, he noticed that the rats were they bit away the cloth. So he got one more cloth, one more rag, and tied it around, and it went on for 2 3 days. And the menace was happening that the rats were somehow finding the cloth and they're biting it away. So to protect his cloth, he got a cat from the rat. So he wanted to protect his rag so that he from the rat. So he got a cat. Now cat was chasing away the rats, and 3 4 days, and finally the cat got tired because it wanted, and he noticed that the rats are again coming and biting away the rag. So he wanted to feed the cat with some milk because it has to be energetic. So he went around, he got some milk from the local vendors, and he started feeding. So one day the vendor would supply, one day he would not supply, one day the milk is quality is good, one day quality is bad, milk is getting spoiled. So all those hassles, he wanted to get away from the hassle. So he thought, let me get a cow so that I can feed the cat, and so that it will chase the rat, and so that my rags will stay unaffected. So he got a cow to feed the cat, and he was milking the cow every day. Now the cow as a cow is giving very good milk, but it is also leaving lot of it is urinating, it was leaving lot of dung, and it was making his entire ashram was pungent with all that smell. So he wanted to ensure that his ashram remains well. So he was spending considerable time taking care in attending to the needs of the cow because his rat, and the rat has to chase the cat so that his rag is unaffected. So to ensure that he saves his time, he got a maiden to attend to the cow. So a servant was attending to the cow. It went on for some time, and since he was interacting closely with the maiden, so he fell in love with this servant. He ended up marrying her, and the story goes on that one small trace of desire to have warmth around his body turned him, pulled him all the way from sannyasa ashrama to grihastha ashrama. That sannyasi, that monk had become a householder just because he had that trace of desire to keep himself warm. And because that line where Rama says, even a trace of desire, if it exists, you act according to your ashrama dharma. His ashrama was sannyasa. He could have acted as required by his ashrama vyavastha. But since he went little away, he was dragged all the way down to the grihastha ashrama. So sannyasi became grihastha, and that's the power of desire. That is what it can wreck our lives with. Just wanted to
I think
share.
Bhagwan has told, yeah, Bhagwan has told this story, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's continue with this. And continuing to that, Bhagwan Hanuman has asked the next question. And let us look at this. He asked, tell me about three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and four kinds of spiritual people, the karmin, bhakta, jnani, and yogin. Now, it's a very interesting thing, from the actions, when you talk about action, obviously these actions need to be understood from this aspect of qualities, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas. But he has also brought in a very beautiful aspect of, we all consider ourselves as spiritual people because we are, God loving people, everybody. But we also have categories, and that is where he's talking about that sattva, rajas, and tamas, and four types of people and how these get impacted with each other. And that is a very interesting combination. So that, and when I look at this question, Raju, I realize that, he might have asked this question from a very, whatever perspective. but from what I little I gather is it helps us to realize and self-assess actually where we stand, you know,
Yes.
where we are, and it helps us also to appreciate our journey. We are able to not only analyze ourselves as to which level of life we are at, but it also gives us a kind of roadmap of where we are supposed to reach. So today I may be thinking that I'm a bhakta. So in bhakta also, am I a sattvic bhakta, rajasic, or tamasic? And then how do I improve myself to sattva? So the idea everybody has to reach sattva, whether you are a jnani, whether a yogi, or you're a karmani, we have to reach sattva, but where we are. So first we don't know. So here we will talk about that. So Raju, before we discuss that, your thoughts, and we'll take it from there, and then
Yes, brother. Just to wrap up one small point on the karma, and as we transition to this topic, uh, the the tone that Hanuman adopts, the Lord Hanuman adopts to when he's asking Ramachandra about karmas, he is of he's it gives a sense that actually they're bondings. You're like the chains that are binding you away. That is a sense that Hanuman gives when he's asking questions. And Rama is so beautiful and poetic that he wraps up the entire discussion of the karma, saying that the same karmas which appear to be bonds to the knower of the self with complete knowledge, they actually become ornaments that essentially which becomes the jewels showing the way for the ignorant and all around. And thus Rama wraps up the discussion and moves Hanuman to this trigunas. So, and as you have so beautifully said, that I think the Hanuman he is so compassionate in the sense that the reason that Hanuman, it appears like he is getting this question is because he wants all of us to relate to that journey. He's so slowly and steadily transitioning the journey. Now he's saying, yes, now you spoke about these knowledge of the self, but there are a lot of people, I might be uh, through my tendencies, I might be uh, the karman, bhakti, jnana, or yogi, and through my innate uh, nature, I might be rajasic, tamasic, sattvic. What am I? I mean, where do I stand? And here he ensures, or rather, out of the devotion, Rama is also compassionate that he gives an assessment tool to Hanuman. In fact, it is to each one of us, where actually do we stand? And so beautifully, as we were going through this document the other day, there are very beautiful lines that Rama uses to define at a very peripheral level. When we start the discussion, Rama is actually talking to Hanuman as to at our common understanding, what do we mean by Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, and he gives the template of the permutations, combination. And just before he wraps up the discussion, he actually takes away the entire discussion to a different level, which we will come to. Uh,
let's
that
yes,
is,
let's jump in then. Yeah. Okay, let
yes,
me
brother.
take you through this. So three attributes: sattva, rajas, and tamas. We'll look at them one by one slowly, and then he gives us these four types of people: they are karmin, bhakta, jnani, and yogin. Is it
Yes.
visible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a combination which he is now explaining to us, and then he says there are karmini as sattva, rajas, and tamas. Similarly, you have bhakta also of three types. You have jnanis also three types, and you have yogini of the three types. Now, first, Raju, let me start off by asking you if you can briefly summarize who is a karman, who is a bhakta, and who is jnani and yogin.
Yes. So, brother, we will just go by from what the definitions that Rama uses, rather,
Yeah,
when Rama
yeah,
explains the actions.
certainly.
So, they are,
Yes.
so karmins, the karma yogis are the ones who, it is essentially all of us. I mean, the entire humanity would fall into one of these branches. Karma yogins, karma are the ones, sorry, you spoke desireless, the word desireless as
Yeah.
well.
No, no,
Okay.
carry on. Huh, because
Sorry. Okay. So they are action oriented. They want to do something. It is only through action. So you look at, so for example, when this sevadal come, there's a beautiful way in which the sevadal are allocated different places in Prashant Nilayam. And I remember uh, one of the anecdotes where one senior devotee had shared with me. They were so they had done this allocation, and then that list was taken to Swami, because Swami had inquired about one particular sevadal that he saw near canteen. So he had asked the authorities, the secretary sir, and then probably he would have inquired as to why this particular devotee was placed, and so that the entire list was taken, and the Swami was going through that, and Swami tells him, no, no, move this person from the canteen. He's doing the canteen seva, food serving seva, saying move from there to bhajans, to the Kulwant hall. And then he spoke about two, three people. He said, move these two, three people to the Kulwant hall. So to from Kulwant hall to canteen. So this Sevadal head, he was trying to. There was a lot of resistance because all of us know that Kulwant hall, you get to see Swami twice a day, while in canteen you don't get to see Swami so regularly. So there is a little bit of that pushback from this devotee saying that we want to stay here only. And finally, the in charge was forced to appeal to the secretary, and who in turn was actually praying to Swami to give some clarification. Swami, in one line, Swami says, no, these people, it is only for their benefit I'm asking. These people derive a lot of, why do they come to Prashantinam? To derive a lot of joy and grace of Swami. Now their makeup is such that they cannot sit silent. They become very restless. Their mind becomes very restless when they sit for darshan in Kulwantal. But they are used to working, continuous working. And so when they work in canteen, all the while they will be thinking of Swami. Now the person that you have allocated in canteen, he is not action oriented. So there is a lot of delay is happening because every time he is lost in singing bhajans, he is just doing namaspana. Look at, but you have to serve because there are thousands of people who are standing in line. You cannot wait. So his nature, so essentially what Swami, the Lord being the Father, he knows how his children are. So people who derive their satisfaction through action are called as karmins. People who derive lot of joy and satisfaction through emotional connect to God, emotional connect to the world, they are the bhakti margas. People who derive lot of internal satisfaction and some kind of fulfillment through knowledge and wisdom, they are the jnanis. And people who are extremely disciplined, and through sheer discipline, and Swami uses niyama and nishta, through sheer discipline and effort, they, like people who have achievement, people who want to, who are very disciplined. Say for example, all these runners that we see around, all those athletic champions, all those leaders running the corporates. So they are coming to this yogic phase where they are rigorous in their approach and very disciplined in their mental makeup. So these are the four classifications that Lord Ramachandra, through his benevolence, he gives indications for us to understand on one side. On the other side, Sattvic, Rajas, and Tamasic are the innate nature. And all of us know, but Rama gives a bouncer later, but all of us know.
Yeah, let me add one more. That's what I was trying to add here. There is another thing which I realized from Ram Gita was that he has described these karma, four types of people, with their ultimate focus, and that is what I was mentioning here.
Exactly. Yes,
That
brother.
if you want to classify karmins and understand that what is the absolute good karma, the person who believes in karma, their attribute is desirelessness. So the actual karma, when you say, no, when you explain that people who are good in karma, you will put them in kind of a, you know, canteen to work and all that. But their pinnacle is desirelessness.
Exactly.
And similarly for bhakta, the pinnacle is God focus. Their priority is God. They only give priority to God. For jnanis, their priority is detachment. They will never be able to attach themselves to anything. That is because of the knowledge they have. So they have very easy to get detachment. And for yoginis, it is their ever focused. Like the way you are explaining right now, they have an absolute focus in whatever they do. So these are the final, the pinnacle of these focuses. For karmins, desireless, bhakta, God, jnanis, detachment, and yogin are ever focused beings. So, and now let us talk about the gunas that we are talking about. So, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So, Raju, you want to take this journey and how he has. But before that, Raju, we'd like to share, that how these classifications have come and for whom they have come. Do you want to do it now or later? Because the way we understand sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Yeah, first we will explain the. We'll talk
Okay,
about the tamas is the gratification at a very peripheral level. This is at a very
okay,
mundane level that we think of.
okay.
Ramachandra is saying, so those who derive gratification, they are the tamasic people. Those who derive gratification from the self, from the world or from the senses. Those who derive acknowledgement at a very peripheral, we are talking at a very fundamental, sorry, not fundamental, at a probably at a beginning stage. uh, Ramachandra, when he's talking to Hanuman, he is referring to all those people who seek acknowledgement from the world as rajas.
Expectation.
Expectation, they have
Expectation.
expectation. And sattvic are ever focused on God, their actions are ever focused on God. Now Rama is telling Hanuman that Hanuman, it is not so. We look at people. So I used even till we had this discussion, the lot of times when you look at people and say, hey, he's a sattvic man, he's a rajasic man. But actually, what Rama gives is a very different explanation. He says, nobody is completely sattvic, no human, no jiva, as Ramachandra says, no jiva is completely of one nature because these mean something else, which Rama explains. But what Ramachandra says is one person. So it is ever focus on. So you have that sattva focus on God, rajas expectation, tamas gratification. Now each one of us can analyze ourselves. So I have focus on God. Now focus on God will remain constant. Focus on God, focus on God, focus on God. But now I need focus on God just to focus on God. That is sattva sattva.
Let's look at it this way. Okay. So we have sattva. Let's discuss sattva then. Sattva, sattva.
Focused on
Yeah,
God and
correct.
with no desire. Yes,
No
brother.
desire.
And the sattva rajas. Now, focus. So many of us, I mean, it's not many of us, all of us actually have these combinations. Sometimes we are focused on God for something. God becomes a medium for us to attain certain things. And the sattva tamas is God becomes a focus for gratification. So here the
Oh,
rajas
sorry. It
is
should be
more gratification. Yes. So rajas is more of desires that I want to acknowledgement. No, no, I want Swami to call me and say that you are a good speaker or you are a good sevadal. So that acknowledgement from the world, and I want Swami to tell everyone that he's a good bhakta. Now I want Swami to give me a good car, to give me lot of money. That sense gratification. All the while Swami is present, the focus, your focus on God is present, but that the purpose of the focus keeps shifting. One time it is just for the God's sake, I want Swami because I love Swami, I want Swami because I want him to praise me in front of everyone, to raise my stature in the world. I want Swami to grant me something. So I am a sattva at one point of time, my mind is at sattva rajas one point of time, I am at sattva tamas at one point of time. So this is relating to the sattva quality. And whether now rajas, we go to rajas, and similar now the permutations and combinations would differ. Rajas sattva. So you have an expectation, now you worship God. You have your expectation, you have some expectation, and then you want to achieve those desires, purely transactional relationship with the God. So all of us, like you look at other day, I'm sure many know this story, that there's a temple called Balaji Chilkur, Balaji in Hyderabad. He's called passport Venkatesha. It is because if you want a passport to US, they come and do one or two circumambulations, and then they say that you get a passport. So that is the rajas. I mean, rajas sattva. You need a passport, but you are using God to get it. So rajas, yes, you want to focus, and it's a pure transactional. Rajas tamas is just for self gratification that you want to do. And similar is a combination with tamas. Whether you want to add tamas
Yeah,
sattva. Yes, and now gratification becomes the cornerstone for which you want to. No, I'm sure we all of us have heard this story. In fact, the beauty is, as Swami says, anyway, let's first finish this. Tamas Tattva, gratification and focus on God because I want to gratify myself. Focused on gratification for acknowledgement. I want to drive in big car because I want the world to acknowledge me. I want to use better clothes because I want that world attention. and and we see a lot of gratification just for the sake of gratification. You see all those people who are lost in drinking, who are lost in a lot of sensual activities because they just love it. What Ramachandra tells Hanuman out of compassion is, no one is just one. All these nine combinations, we would sit at one point of time in one of these combinations. That is the quality of jiva. Yes, brother, sorry, go on.
no problem. Let's look at it this way now, because we have these four types of people, right? So I think
Yes.
it will be right to discuss from that point of view. So it becomes some discussion becomes more fruitful for everybody. So let us look at karmani first, and then look at sattva, rajas, and tamas combination of what does it mean for karmana, for example. You know, so when he explains that in karmanis where sattva predominates, which is supposed to be desire free from desires, they perform the nitya karmas. They say that he says they perform all their ritualistic duties and whatever prescribed by the shastras, and they say shrutis, and they please me. He says very simple. Those people are I'm happy with them, and they get purified in the due course, and they achieve me, which is the state of Satchit Anand. And that is how he describes karmanis and sattva karmanis. So we have seen the combination of sattvas. So in that combination, he explains what do they mean. So he the karmani, and I'm sure if we look around, we will realize where we stand, and if we believe that we are like our sevadals, they are biggest example of karmanis. They can do amazing kind of seva. But now it is a very interesting thing to self and assess that are we sattva karmanis, rajas, or tamas karmanis? So in sattva predominates, in karmanis which sattva predominates, which means they have to act desirelessly. That is the combination which comes here. And they have to be aware of their ashram vyavastha. And so rest will automatically happen. So it is not an expectation game. In Rajoguna, for karmanis, he says they have a desire. Rajoguni people who are working, they are praying that Swami, take care of my death, take care of my life after. There's a constant prayer also we see in that people who are acting, they're saying, okay, Lord, I am performing, take care of my family and blah, blah, whatever. So they perform all the rituals and all the factors of in the pursuit of making their life better or achieving something higher. And they are, and Ram says very beautifully that such people, on exhaustion of their karma, they are again born back into this world and ultimately they will come to me. So it's a chain reaction. And the third, tamoguni karmanis, in which he says they are mostly engaged in kamya karma. And that is a word we have used in the last episode. We shared this thought when Ram explains kamya karma. That means actions which are designated for some expectation are out of desire. They are performed based on certain expected desire. They are become kamya karmas. So they say devoted to supporting their families with money and all that. When we pray that God, I'm worshipping you, so please take care of my family, my children, blah blah blah. That is classified as tamoguni karmanis. So you can imagine now we have all kinds of people around, So in Karmanis, these are three categories. Raju, any stories? I don't know.
Yes, brother.
It
Yeah,
is
in
very
fact, yes, the as Swami compassionately uh, puts it that the beauty of having God in any of the aspects is, it is actually a purifying agent. Now there is that story of that experience which was narrated by a senior devotee to me. He comes from the movie field, so he had this habit of drinking. So during one of the interviews, it's a very clear, he's a action oriented person. He has to be on the field shooting the movies, holding camera day in and day out, the karma. So the karmin. And here we are talking about the tamasic, with the complete sense gratification. But somehow, for some good reason, he has found Swami to share grace of the Lord. And also, as Swami later revealed, that is also the punyam of his family members. So he had told Swami that, I have this one habit. I can't stop drinking. Don't worry. So he was expecting Swami to admonish him, but on the contrary, Swami said, don't worry, just drink every day, but just follow this simple advice. He said he was given 7 coins, and he said, just put these 7 coins in the glass and pour wine to the height such that the wine equals the height of the 7 coins, and every day drink, but one condition: every day take away one coin. So he diligently started following. Whenever he was drinking, he was just putting those. So it became 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. On the seventh day, the uh, desire for drinking went away. So he was that action oriented from pure tamasic. He was slowly and steadily raised by the grace of the Lord. That's where Swami says, do not worry wherever you are. I mean, you might be you in the sense, I might be a tamasic karmani, but with the grace of the Lord, if you just have that love for God, slowly and steadily, the mental evolution will happen, and we will reach the mind gets refined to be a sattvic karmin. And similar as you are explaining.
Raju, we have a question here. Srinas is asking, can Brother Raju clarify if the combination is also impacted by the ashram in which the person is placed? Oh yes, oh yes.
Yes. Yes, brother. Yes, definitely. I mean, as Swami's brother, would you explain as you?
No, I was thinking like, because the ashram vyavastha determines our action. So the sattva, rajas and sattva, tamas and all that is a state in which we are. How we
Yes,
conduct is the guidelines of conduct is ashram vyavastha. So it is
exactly.
not sattva, rajas and all that. So that is sattva, rajas and all that is our nature, is our intent where we are hanging. How to improve upon it based on action, and action is based on ashrams. Am I right, Raju? Sorry.
Yes, brother. So, as Swami, in fact, in one of these lines only, Ramachandra explains. He says, if a person who is ever focused, even if he comes from uh, apparently, when the any of the ashram dharmas, if he is ever focused on God, with his intent and focus on God, he uses the words of focus on God and also scripture knowledge. With these two, he becomes dearer to me, and he realizes the knowledge of the self. So Ramachandra very clearly says. So ashram vyavastha is determined by our aptitudes and the age of life. There is varnashrama. Varna is by the work that we do, and ashram is by the stage of life. And these two are the areas of your function, they are circumstances of your function, but how do you conduct that action, how do you function yourself, that is the sattva rajas sattva tamas, this combination. So what action you need to do, that is determined by the ashram vyavastha. So I am Say, for example, I am a brahmachari. My responsibility is to acquire knowledge. My responsibility is to maintain focus on acquiring knowledge and nothing else. Now you can be at this stage, you can curse your teachers, you can agitate, you can go and participate in agitations in college, you can do all sorts of nonsense which we see around. So this is determined by the person's innate nature, the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic combinations.
Okay, cool. So let us look at the bhakta as he has explained now. Sri Ram says, Sattvic bhaktas are free from desires and they adore me, they obtain knowledge about self by me, and in due course reach me. So their whole focus of the Sattvic bhakta is God, and from God they want the pure God knowledge and ultimately merge in the God. So there is nothing else between bhakta and God. Rajasic bhakta, he says, they adore me externally in images and by acharnas, which is adoring them with flowers, etc., and in many other ways, ultimately reach my lok, enjoy unimaginable pleasures, and are born again in pure Brahmin families. It should not sound like a Brahminical statement, like, what they have explained, even in Purans, I have read this, and they have explained that when a person of such caliber who is focused on God but has the influence of expectations or whatever, their next birth is given in such pure families which allows and become conducive for their future growth. So that is what he is mentioning here also, that such people are again adored, they adore me and they love by me because they are doing worship and they are following me. They'll reach my loka. So not me. The difference I'm finding here between sattva and rajas is that in sattva he reaches me, he says, and here in rajas he says they reach my loka. It is like samipya, sayujya, salokya. So here it's like a salokya, and that is sayujya. So sattvic people have sayujya culmination, rajasic people have salokya culmination, and tamasic people, he says tamasic bhaktas, they put a garb on of a bhakta. So in fact, when I understand it, it is devoid of acharas. So that means they don't perform the actions in pure intent, and their worship and everything is done for the sake of monetary gratifications and other things. So if you look at it, then tamasic bhaktas are really not bhakta, but they are pretending to be bhakta. So they are in the pretension stage. So Raju, what do you think about it?
Yes, brother. Yeah. As Swami Swami talks of this one beautiful example. We were doing this Vibhishana Sharanagati drama, and a senior brother was recollecting. There were two instances, parallel. Swami beautifully described in the drama scene. Parallel pujas were going on. One was immediately after. Uh, so the Lanka is reconstructed after it was burned down by our hero Hanuman. Efforts were made to reconstruct, and a new palace is being inaugurated. And that morning, uh, the Emperor Ravana is praying, and there are, like the description goes, that there were 108 priests who were actually leading Ravana with various flowers and those scents and lot of offerings to the lingam, to the main lingam of Lanka. And you can imagine 108 people leading, and 108 priests are actually holding those offerings, and they're walking behind Ravana. Sorry, in front of Ravana, and Ravana is following them. And Ravana, even after that, the description goes that there are the priests and there is that entire entourage of Ravana, the royal retinue, and then Ravana. Imagine what grand it would have been. And that entire lingam, even Hanuman also, when he's passing through Lanka, he looks at it and is wonderstruck that there is that yajna kunda every day. the worship is happening in the Yagikunda, and Ravana is walking there. Imagine that grandeur in your mind, in the eye of your mind. On the other side, just outside the Lanka, on the other side of the sea, the bridge is now ready, and the monkeys will now embark on the crossing of the bridge. Just before the Vibhishana place, Lord, as a mark of respect, Ramachandra, as a mark of friendship and respect and gratitude, I want to pray. I want to make Shivalingam and pray because it is our deity. Rama agrees, and that's how the Rameshwara Lingam comes. In fact, there's a beautiful story where Rama, Swami describes in 1963 discourse, Rama sends Hanuman to Himalayas. It's a different story, and Hanuman gets delayed, but nevertheless, the story goes, and then they make this lingam out of sand. Vibhishana makes that lingam out of sand. Imagine sand means they would have just it would have been just a mound of sand, and everybody is worshipping. And what are they worshipping? So since they are out on the beach, on the side of the ocean, they have nothing else. So each of these monkeys, they go out with those leaves, they cup them into those holders, and then they just get water. And all the stones, since when they were throwing, the stones had actually hit one against the other, so there's a lot of that powder of the stones, so that is used as vibhuti. So one hand they're holding this leaf water, and other hand they're holding that powdered stone, and they're putting that on the lingam, and that there's a huge line. And here on the other side of the beach is this massive Ravana, in the massive retinue, all the grandeur, and they're worshipping Shiva. And yet, all of us know that Shiva feels humbled by the worship that is done by Lord Rama and his uh, warriors. And he makes no mention of the worship that is done by Ravana. So, which is a clear contrast. Who actually is a devotee? No, there is that the Rajasic devotee, as Ramachandra is beautifully talking to us. You have a clear contrast of this Ravana with all the pomp and show, with all those 108 flowers and fruits and scents, a, a sheer display of grandeur, and on the other side, abject, if I can use the word poverty, but yet the purity and the intent was so pure that Lord Shiva himself takes a note of it, and he is acknowledge, he's kind of expressing his gratitude to Lord Ramachandra for being called upon. So a clear contrast of the Rajasic devotees and the pure Sattvic devotee. I just thought I can. In fact, Swami gives a description of this in the drama, as to how these two brothers were contrasting in their character, and that's what Rama is telling us. Now, you might appear to be a bhakta, but what is actual intent of the bhakta?
Beautiful. Brother Srinivas has another posed a question here. As a grihastha, it becomes more challenging to implement sattva sattva. Well, brother, I don't know. I cannot comment on it much, but I can say that we have seen many examples around Bhagwan, because once you really get this idea about how to, live with the God focus, then whether you're a grihastha or a vanaprastha or even brahmacharya, they become part of your activity. So you can let the body conduct the activity, but if the focus is God, that is what matters. So I can be a cook and I can still cook with a focus on God. I can be a driver and still focus on God. I can be a businessman and keep focus on God. So yes, I'm not saying it is easy. Certainly, that's all the game it is. But it is not something which is not achievable. It is not something that we should feel it is beyond us. When Bhagwan says, that means it is doable and we must pursue that with no ifs and buts. So that is my humble 2 cents for you, brother. Raju, you want to say
Yes,
anything or we continue?
yes, but I just add one small beautiful anecdote that one of our senior brothers had shared. He was acting as Radha, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you would have seen, you would have been probably
Hmm.
around that time, the Radha Bhakti drama, and that
Hmm.
one night, so I think 1 or 2 nights before, this brother was acting as Radha, and he, in one scene where he's singing about Krishna, he cried on the stage, cried out of pathos. So after the drama, Swami corrects him, saying, when Radha was thinking of Krishna or in the thought of God, she was in complete joy, boundless joy. She never cried out of agony or pain. There was never a, a sort of challenge when she was thinking of God. But the minute focus moved to the world, she cries. She experiences pain. She experiences separation. And Swami says, you should not cry when you're singing about Krishna, but rather on the times where you're not thinking about Krishna, that time you should cry. So I'm just drawing parallel from there. I think the minute when we say challenge, it is appearing to be a challenge because it is, in my little understanding and my little submission, is that probably our focus is not like Radha. Swami was saying Radha's focus was so much on Krishna that she saw nothing else. Challenge is also a very subtle reminder to us that our focus is not completely on the Lord. And Swami in one discourse he clarifies that when your focus is completely on God, he ensures that nothing will come as a deterrent or a challenge on your way. The discourse also talks about the primary school. That day, auntie was sharing of the small kid who was actually standing on the stage, and then because of some mishap, it caught the stage behind caught fire, and she was in this kid was in those costumes which actually are highly flammable, and everything around was burning, but not a spark fell on her, and she was just completely lost. And Swami explains in the discourse, all of us can see, he says that is because her focus was only Swami. The girl was not worried about the fire all around her. She was unperturbed. She was just looking at Swami, and she was lost in the action that she was doing. She was dancing, and since her sight was on Swami, the Lord ensured that not even a flake of the flame had actually fallen on her, and she was all sound and hearty. I'm sure it is the same
Good.
here.
Lovely. Okay, let's look at the third one, which Bhagwan Ram is talking about now, Gyanis. So Sattva Gyani he explains as the endowed with Vairagya, that is detachment, and with other good qualities. They meditate on Brahman or the self, and that reflects, it shines in their actions. And all their actions are based on Shastras. So it becomes like means actions become natural for the Gyanis. And they reach the most difficult to attain my loka, and in the end, that my supreme seat. So Gyani has a little indirect route to himself, to God, but he also reaches. Sattva Gyani reaches, and their conduct is like that. Rajoguni Gyanis, they are mentally addicted to samsara. This is very tricky. Surrounded by their disciples, occasionally contemplates on the meaning of Shrutis. I find it is very interesting here because it's very easy to get trapped with people around you when you are a follower. Bhagwan always used to say that if you follow spiritual path, the fame and name will come to you like nothing. So don't get attached to that because that is natural outcome of a spiritual pursuit. So I think that is a trap of Rajoguni Gyanis. And they too reach my loka and born again to be freed instantly with the help of their former vasanas. So which means they will also get liberated, but they will have little bit of steps to go through. And then tamasic jnanis, addicted to sensual pleasures, teach Ved to Shudras for the sake of money. They also go to the horrible hell, thereafter mostly born as dogs for having misused the Veda. So the language is very tough, but I'm just stating what is mentioned. So tamasic jnanis, they are actually having gratification in mind, and that is what makes it difficult. And I feel also why it is so harsh. That's my understanding, because I take it from Mahabharata that if a knowledgeable person deviates, it is considered to be much harder mistake than if an ignorant person deviates. So that is why if a Brahmin class commits the mistake and the same mistake is committed by a Shudra class of mental evolution consciousness, then Brahmin is supposed to get higher punishment than the Shudras. Because Brahman, one who is contemplating on God, slips, has got a vaster impact on the society and others than compared to the Shudra. So there is a lot of permutation combination in interpreting dharma and its impact and the consequence thereon. So this I found it from Yudhishthira's discussion, and even Bhagwan used to do that. But it's very I would say harsh, but it is truth. So that is what it is. Tamasic jnanis. So Raju, anything on jnanis?
Yes, and all of us have heard of those instances where Swami spoke uh, uh, about about the suffering that was undergone by great sages, by great devotees. I mean, if we need not name them, but there was once at a one point of time a question was asked to some as to why a sage of great name and fame had to undergo intense pain and suffering. And Swami clarified to him that yes, he was of great fame and name, but he had in the pursuit of attracting lot of crowd and devotees, he was exaggerating, and he was concocting stories. He was, he would use a very sly language, a very jokes of poor taste during his speech, just to lighten the mood. And because of that, that thing came back to him as some kind of disease. And
Oh my.
and then and then the question, the conversation, the professor was asking that will he not be, some said nothing will happen to him, but he will be ultimately saved because he was doing it uh, with an intent to serve the Lord. But since the means adopted were not so proper, you have to undergo. Then immediately someone else who was sitting two, three, places behind, he took the liberty and asked him that, Swami, but there are people who write so bad about you. What about them? If such a great person is undergoing such suffering, what about those people who write bad about you? Then Swami said, immediate thing, immediate. It was not even, there was no gap also. He says, uh, the dogs would bark and they would go away. And immediately it was, there was that sense of doubt. If one person is getting so much of punishment for those jokes, for those simple jokes during a speech, but while other person who was writing so much bad is being let out. So as Swami explains, he says, you don't give the same value is adored, is same material is of the diamond and of the coal. Both are made of the carbon, but you burn away the coal and you throw away it once it turns into ash. Just throw it away. But when the carbon has become diamond, you actually keep it so safely, and you even if a small scratch comes on the diamond, you feel very perturbed. But on the other hand, you thrash the coal, you throw it in the fire. So because it doesn't belong. So he says the message was conveyed that these are so dear to the Lord that even if a small scratch comes, there is that sense of deviation,
It's
and it
like,
comes back.
yeah, it is like, don't even see what can you say about those people who are still far from the journey. So it is always
Yes.
better to keep quiet. How can you talk negative so much, So he's after all the master himself. Okay, good. So let us look at the last one, and yoginis. Yoginis, he says, sattvic yoginis always practice nidya dhyasana, and that is the abstract meditation, and they are blissful because of their practices and experience of self. They are free from desire, and when their prarabdha gets over, ends, and their body fall, they, without any suffering, yoginis, they reach my supreme seat. Very beautiful. So they are always in that practice of mode and they are blissful. So mostly they are yoginis have to be related to a happy being. They'll always be happy state. So Rajasic yoginis are they practice meditation and have not brought about the destruction of mind. So they have not yet conquered it and are perplexed at not having realized that is Atman and undergo the greatest miseries resulting from the prarabdha. So they are kind of in a turmoil. They have a tug of war going on because they have not yet broken the barriers of the mind and not realized the Atman. So they are practicing it, and that is why they have the suffering of the body and they undergo the suffering before reaching the goals. That is Godhead. And the Tamasic yogis, they are showing extreme neglect to Brahma, Brahma Vidya, and vexed by the Avana Varna will be eager to acquire anima and other siddhis. So they are basically practicing all these not because their love for God or Brahma Vidya. They are doing it because they want to acquire certain siddhis, the powers and superhuman powers. By their aversion to nished acharas, they will reach my loka, enjoy pleasures, and then reach me after being born once more on this earth. So he says because their deviation is there, but the karmas are strong, so they will reach the loka and then again come back and then improve upon and come back again. So they have a little yoginis have to go through this suffering. And I think we have heard many people, that in all the avatars time, there is always a mention that there was a yogini and she became like a crow or something, some like a crocodile. So there are different people who get liberated by Krishna and Rama. So maybe possibly they are of that category of yogis who have faulted somehow and then they were given the relief from there. So Raju, anything about the yoginis?
But nothing much. But in fact, we would hear devotees talking about even Sai Gita of the same grade. She is the great tapasvi. She had come back in this form because of some God alone knows some deviation. I remember once one of some of my classmates had gone to a great uh, master, spiritual master. So he was expecting. There is that this three four of them were telling me they were there. They are on a very jovial note. They asked me not to talk about it outside, but now it is many years past now, and it makes a lot of sense. So they were expecting, they were debating as to how this great Maharaj would address them. Would he imitate Swami as Bangarus, or would he call them dear ones? And so they were ushered into his presence. And when these four of them walked in, he looked at the two of the four and said, "Hey, Rog, you're Rog." In Hindi, he said, "Yoga Bhrashta, you have come back again." And these two were shocked. They're just doing namaskar. And he was telling his other devotees, "See, these yoga brashtas have come back. The Lord is so compassionate that he is now grooming them with some given compassion." It is, yes, probably he did not explain further, but the message was given. That in some life, probably some brashta, something would have gone wrong, and they lost their track and they came back as humans. And out of sheer compassion and grace, the Lord is now correcting them. He has put them on the right path, and that is where the yoginis, the people of yogic quality, and that's how the combination of these nine different grades come in. And uh, and as Lord beautifully says, that these are only the qualities of jiva. So brother, do we go forward?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about those GVs. I think that is an
Jiva.
important aspect. Yes.
Yes. So, and the slides are not seen, maybe because of some.
Yeah, actually, yeah,
No problem.
carry on. Just go with
Okay, so
that.
as the Lord says, it is now why does Ramachandra say this? And how does Ramachandra define GV? He uses a beautiful combination. He says GV is the one who has these three qualities, that is Vishwa, Tejas, and Prajna. The one who is composed of these three is GV. So these GVs are of 9 attributes. Now, what is Vishwa, Tejas, and Prajna? Prajna, Swami is so compassionate. There is a line. In fact, when we were going through, we realized that there is a different interpretation that was given in this Vishwa, Tejas, Prajna. It was very confusing. Then we referred Swami's discourses, and there are umpteen discourses where Swami spoke about this and gave a very clear explanation. What do they mean? It is then it struck me that line where he says, "Kala Sangdikta Vigraha Suktulayunta Pashyartha Gopyamul Telpukoraku." Swami says one of the purpose of this avatar is Kala Sangdikta Vigraha Suktulayunta Pashyartha Gopyamul Telpukoraku. In the flow of time, the meanings of some words have effaced. They have lost essence of the original meaning, and they have become like those rocks devoid of any purpose and meaning. I have come back to give them sheen and show the glory of those words, and that is exactly what the Lord is doing. So Swami beautifully defines what is Vishwa. It is basically when you are awake in the waking stage. GV is the one who has these three stages. What is the three stages? The waking stage, who is awake, is looking around the world, is a Jagrat Avastha, where all the your five senses, your five Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Panchaputas, Panchakoshas, and Antakarana, and your self, all the 25 active, and 24 or 25 active, and you are seeing the world. Vishwa. Tejas, now it is a dreaming stage where the Antakarana, the five Karmendras, Dhanendras are off, but your Antakarana, the mind, the mental aspects are very active. And why these stages? And Swami explains that they are reflecting, the mind is reflecting the light, the effulgence of the Atma, and hence it is only shining. Swami gives the example of the moon shining because of the light of the sun. So just like the moon shines because of the light of sun, the mind is shining because, or the Antakarana is shining because of the light of the Atma, effulgence of Atma, that is a Tejas. And Prajna is the deep Sushupti stage where only the self is awake and it is the witness. Prajna and aham atma ati, aham atma asmi iti prajna is the definition as one of the Upanishad gives. The supreme knowledge that I am the eternal witness, that is that sushupti, is the deep sleep stage where only the self is awake and both the mind and the body are gone. They are off. So the combination of these three is GV, as Ramachandra says, and only GV has these combinations of 9. But the beauty is above the GV there is that Saguna Brahma, and above the Saguna Brahma and
Is Nirguna Brahma.
Nirguna Brahma, and
Above
that is
Nirguna Brahma,
yes, brother.
so above Nirguna Brahma is the supreme
Supreme Self,
Mahat,
that
Mahat Tattva, Mahat
Mahatma.
Tattva.
And that is where Ramachandra gives a completely mind-blowing explanation of what actually Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. It is. I am assuming that Hanuman would have actually blown away by that revelation. He was thinking till now that Rama is playing along with Hanuman. Whatever you say, Sattva is Sattva, Sattva Rajas. And then suddenly he just opens up the curtain and he says, "This actually is the meaning of the Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas." Brother, would you take over?
Yeah, no, no, I was enjoying listening to you. Yes, so beauty of the whole explanation is, you come back to the same storyline of the creation, in which you have the Mahat, which is the supreme infinite consciousness, and then from there you get Aham, which is the identity, and that Aham has what attributes. The one aspect of Aham on the visible side of Aham has an attribute that we call as uh, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, Asti Bhati Priyam. All these
Anand.
terminologies come there. That is what he's explained as, truth, consciousness, and bliss. So all these kind of definitions are given to that Brahman. So So from Mahat comes this identity which has these attributes. Then comes Paramatma, which is what we worship as the supreme Godhead, whom we call as avatars and all that. They have this quality of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And that was a little bit of shocker for all of us, that we thought that we have Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, but actually they represent Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And then the combinations of these nine, which we have seen in our slides also, that combination which we talked about, and that combination is actually, that is the GV part of it. So this combination, what we have watched here, is the GV part of it. So the combination aspect is one. Then the Sattva Rajas part is the Paramatma. So you can say Jivatma is the nine combinations, and then the GVs. So these nine combinations experience what we have seen here as these three: Tejas, sorry, Vishwa, Tejas, and
Tejas,
Prajna.
yeah.
So yeah, Vishwa, Tejas, and Prajna. This is the combination which we experience as Vishwa, one who is physically got the exposure of the subtle Godhead, is Vishwa. Then, when you have mental capacity, that is Tejas, and the subtle capacity, the causal capacity, is Prajna. So, these three are the reflection of these nine. When you combine all of that, then we are on the other spectrum, other end of the spectrum of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. On the other end of the spectrum of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas is the Paramatma. And that is probably why we have identified as Sattva to be Narayan, that is Lord Vishnu. Then you have Rajas as Brahma, who is the creator aspect of this effulgence. And then you have Tamas, which is represented by the Lord of Lords, the Shiva himself. So we had this questioning doubt, but today when we are going through that and we realize, Raju, I think it's very exciting for all of us, that now when you look at Tamas, and the definition of Tamas we give is lethargy, we give ignorance, we give darkness, and then we have a godhead like Shiva. So there was always a confusion in my mind as to, I said, we are interpreting it wrong, and somehow we got to know that yes, we were interpreting it wrong. The Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas is that supreme attributes of the Godhead. On the other end of the spectrum is we, who are the combinations of these nine, and we get peaked through Vishwa, Tejas, and Prajna.
Yes, brother. And just to add the definition of Maya, you can also talk about it as Lord Rama defines. It is this the
Yeah,
purest.
we have touched upon that before. Yeah, carry on.
No, I was just saying that as Lord Ramachandra defines, at that point of time it was a little bit confusing, but now it's very clear. Ramachandra defines that Maya is the pure aspect of Sattva, and it has two functions, which is the creation, Vikshepa, and Avarna. In sense, it creates manifold and Avarna. It kind of gives a separate identity. And he says the Sattva aspect of the Paramatma gets reflected as Maya. Now, when we look at this entire definitions of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, we realize that the actual meaning of these are extremely profound, and because of the flow of time we have begun to interpret them wrong, and that is why uh, those figureheads of God, generation, organization, and destruction, these three represent these three qualities.
I feel sometimes, Raju, that it's like describing Bhagwan Baba as an avatar in terms of a philanthropist who has
Yes,
built hospitals and schools. So it is like you're not even scratching the surface, man. You're talking about Avatar or saying Ram killed Ravan. It is like the most superficial thing ever you can explain Ram as. That
absolutely.
Ram killed Ravan. That is like, it just happens. because Ram was going that way, he just finished one of them. So it is not it is not something that you can define an avatar with that. So when I look at this definition of sattva, rajas, and tamas, I have the similar feeling that so far we have limited these connotations to such a superficial explanations that we are trapped with that. Whereas look at the tamas. That tamas is something which is beyond our comprehension. It's like a black hole in the sky, which looks like nothing, but it has got millions of universes inside it. So tamas is dark because we can't see. And the beauty of Shiva is that the only part that we can see, we think that is what it is. It is like a torch bulb in a dark hall. Wherever the torch falls, we feel we have seen the wall, we have seen the room. But have we seen the room really? So tamas is that black hole. It is that vast, infinite, amazingly awesome, infinite, which cannot be even comprehended. And hence we call it tamas. It is, I don't know the words where they originated. We have to really do more research to find out. And I have a very strong feeling as we are finding, Bhagwan has touched upon every aspect of it. He has
Yes.
described everything. So, he would always bring it down to our level in explanation. When somebody asked him, "Oh, tamas is bad," he says, "No, sleep is important. If you don't rest the body, then." So he makes it so relevant for the person who's asking question. But that is the beauty of it. So we realize that we are the combination, the permutation combination, which is called as GV. The sattva, rajas, and tamas is the Paramatma, and asti bhati priyam, or whatever we want to describe as truth,
Sachit Ananda.
consciousness, satchit ananda, that becomes that mahat tattva. And Bhagavan used to say, we are experiencing that. We have to experience that. Not even the sattva, rajas, and tamas. They are only partial. It is like people who are aspiring for heavens. They aspire for sattva, rajas, and tamas. We have to aspire for my loka, my identity, sarupya, sayujya. That is, I find now the meaning of that salokya makes sense. That salokya is not this lokya. It is something that so
And,
amazing.
and
And the
that's how
more
the
and more
Lord,
people,
sorry, yeah. That's how the Lord, since they are the cause, the God, since they are the cause of this existence, Lord Ramachandra calls them as the Karana, as the Karana Gunas, and they function through all the GVs or the action, and hence these are the Karya Gunas. So Lord Ramachandra says one has to realize the karana gunas. Only then there is some a sense of fulfillment. And he uses a harsh word. I'm sure, brother, you would
let me
explain.
let me read that statement which Bhagavan has summarized this. Lord Ram has said, the threefold subdivision of the gunas, which we have seen that 9 combinations, are quite distinct from those that pertain to the effect, which is karya gunas, and from those that pertain to the cause, the karan gunas.
Karana gunas.
They, the threefold modifications, are to be rejected by those who desire liberation. So imagine being trapped in the 9 combination itself is the GV problem. So we have to get out of that too. And there he makes it very clear that the 3 combinations that we are looking at, 9, they are quite distinct from the 3 gunas and the Karan gunas. That Karan gunas, which is talking about the causal, is
Satchit
your
Anand.
Satchit Anand. That's Satchit Anand. And the separate guna, the Karya guna, is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas.
Tamas.
You know,
So we
I
have to.
always I would myself make a request to all the Pravachan Kartas that they are taking Ramayan, but they should always mention what Ram taught. This is amazing knowledge. And there is one more thing which I wanted to share is this. Those who have not even realized the Kriya Gunas, but who nevertheless neglect the Karana or the seed Gunas with the idea or the wrong notion of similarity between the Gunas. Look at this one. So those who are neglecting their these 9 combinations because they feel that either they are wrong notions or they feel, oh, sattva, rajas, and tamas is same as these combinations. They are pertaining to the cause and are pseudo philosophers or quack professors of science of self. I want to make a disclaimer: these are not my words. This is in Rama Gita, and it is very powerful. I find it so powerful. Those who have not even realized Kriya Gunas, which is the 9 combinations, but who nevertheless neglect the Karana or the seed Gunas, that is your Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, they lose that. Can you imagine that? Hanuman, I bow down to you. He was one of my favorites, anyways, but now I bow down to him with more reverence. That you have to have a caliber of Lord Hanuman even to, you know, ask such questions and lead Bhagwan Ram in that way to get this truth in out.
Beautiful. I
Amazing.
think it's just should be grateful to Hanuman and his compassion, and also to Lord Ramachandra to have given this opportunity to Hanuman. These are,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
it is one of the
Let
only
me show
texts.
you this
Yes,
one. Yeah, actually, I had made this one just to summarize it. The Vishwa is the sthula body, is fully
yes,
invoked with the objective world. Tejas is the Sukshma body, a subtle one, is illumined by the mind and the Tejas, inner light. So mind and the inner light is Tejas. Prajna is the Karna or the causal body, subsumed in the consciousness, which is Sushupti. So this is on the physical human level, GV level. Can you imagine that? And we were thinking that this Prajna Tejas is kind of a very high level thing. So we have we have not even now we are realizing that I don't even know Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas properly. Forget forget Satchit Ananda. So it is interesting. So, but yeah, it's a eye opener and representation.
yes. In fact, it is one of the only texts that gives such a detailed explanation about the various combinations of sattva, rajas, tamas, and the different aspects that precede sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Wonderful. I'm sure these topics, as we have been discussing, we are enjoying it, but as Bhagwan used to say that, action is important, but mananam is more important. Contemplation of these thoughts are more critical. So I guess we all need to get into more of contemplation, introspection, and munching, as they say, munching this. So there is so much of knowledge out here, but one who can munch it would extract the juice and enjoy that flavor. So thank you, Raju. I think we should call it a day for today, and then pray that Bhagwan keeps giving us this strength and craziness to continue this wonderful journey. So, Raju, any final words before we close?
uh, Nothing, but I have only just that immense gratitude to the Lord for allowing us to delve into this Gita. And I'm sure as the next chapter, when we come to it, is we realize what even Arjuna had, that overwhelming experience. It was even
Yeah.
Hanuman was blessed with the
We
same
will not
experience.
we'll not break that surprise. We'll keep it. But the next episode is going to be something another level of exposure and awesomeness. So let us pray for that. Thank you, Priya.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram, everybody.